The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Hi, I'm Mike O'Sullivan, CEO of One SouthCoast Chamber, and I'm joined here today on the One SouthCoast Business Connection with Katie Green, our Vice President of Marketing and Events. Katie, it's great to see you.
Great to see you on this beautiful day, Mike. We're getting the good weather now, finally.
Finally, the really good weather's here, and it didn't rain today.
Today, as of filming, it has not rained, so let's hope it stays this way for the weeks to come.
Yes, it's early, but yes, the weather's been great, and the chamber's doing great. We've got a lot of great things going on.
As always, we always have a lot of things going on. So should we start with our education committee and what's going on with that?
I think the education committee is a great place to start. We really do have a lot of great things happening with the education committee. We've got, the committee, which Ian Trombley really manages on a day-to-day basis. He's done a great job really taking what is a very large committee with 70 or 80 people and kind of honing it down to 3 real subcommittees with their own individual goals and topics and things like that. And those 3 subcommittees are education policy, career connection, and educator recruitment and retention, which in each one of those, as I said, they have their kind of their own goals, but they're not simple goals. He's taking on a lot, but he's got great participation from the folks on the education committee, which can range from, Dr. Laura Douglas from Bristol Community College sits on it and is a very active member. We've got folks from Chancellor Fuller at UMass Dartmouth in his inner circle are in there, like Michael Goodman and Matt Roy, and some others are in there on a regular basis. And then we've got we've got educators, we've got superintendents, we've got teachers, we've got folks who run the guidance departments throughout the cities and things like that. So there's a lot going on. And on the education policy committee really kind of scrambled, but did a great job because as the Senate was putting their budget together, which was just about a month ago or maybe 3 weeks ago, and the policy committee really they wrote a letter that went to our senators, which are Senator Rodericks and Senator Montigny, and with very really great clear points on what what we needed, what the education world sees, and fortunately is very much in line what was in the budget, to start with, which we've always found that because we have a great relationship with them, meaning the 2 senators, that they know what matters because we're talking to them constantly. But we did the letter was fantastic. I'm not going to get into all 5 budget priorities, or we'll be talking about that for the entire show. But so there's really a lot going on there. The other 2 categories, the career connection, really we're going to work with the folks here at Bristol and all the local businesses to try to create an actual intern database, because there's so many more businesses today are telling us that they need interns, and but it's hard to find interns. But you need job descriptions for these interns. You need it just needs to be a common place that all businesses can search, and all intern seekers, whether they're at UMass or whether they're at Bristol or even at Bridgewater, and the high school students, because the high schools have some terrific intern programs, and that's at the charter schools. It's at Diamond and New Bedford Vogue. and then and the other public schools have great programs as well mostly through the career and technical education. That's a tongue twister for me today. But so there's a lot happening in there. And then the educator recruitment and retention is an interesting one, because when we first started talking about that one, you could see educators kind of squirm in their seats, because because really what it is it's some of it is talking about Fall River not stealing teachers from New Bedford, and I'm using that as an example. Don't know that that's
no
actually
accusations.
happened. None of this is accusatory, but we really want to, if we want to really focus on trying to recruit people from outside the market to become educators in the market, because we do have some great schools. We've got some challenging schools, but we've got challenging schools with fantastic programs, great leaders, great teachers that are moving the needle, and we would like to be able to bring more people in. And we'd also like to find a way to keep the great people that we have. And that's not going to happen with just the schools focused on it. They need help.
Right.
So we're trying to commit and find ways and resources, almost similar to the way we promote tourism in the area. You look outside the area and you try to bring the people from other communities that are 50 miles or more away. 50 miles might be a lot for an educator to commute here, but there is great quality of living, and the cost of living is not nearly as high as it is in many other markets.
Well, and especially with the commuter rail making its debut here soon.
Exactly. And while we don't have a date on that, it's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming.
So as you mentioned, Ian is heading up the Education Committee, and he's also doing a great job with our Government Affairs Committee as well. And we've got some updates on that committee.
Yeah, our Government Affairs Committee really feels like it's moving 190 miles an hour. There's just so much good stuff that's happening there, and I mentioned the education portion of that, where there's a lot of it going on, but Ian is in the last month, he's been in Boston a few times, on Beacon Hill, talking to people. We had a meeting. The chamber, I wasn't there, but Ian had a meeting. He brought 2 of our members with him to talk about paid family medical leave with the Secretary of Labor, Lauren Jones, and it was Matt Sanflone from Gold Medal and Gary Howiak, who's a local attorney, to really to go and talk. They wanted to know what challenges that businesses are seeing with paid family leave, and they went to that meeting. It was a very good meeting. There's not a lot of people, so they really got to kind of just really let their points be known. And Gary and Matt are both great speakers, and of course Ian knows the topic very, very well. And then we turned around last week. We had a legislative government affairs meeting in New Bedford, and we were talking to 4 of the New Bedford folks, and again, it was a great conversation because and many of the representatives down there are attorneys,
right?
But they don't necessarily practice human resource law like Gary Howiak does or Matt Sanflone. So when you talk to them, all of a sudden they hear and they realize, wait a minute, there is a completely different approach to this, and it may be very different from what anybody ever thought, but it's real, and there are challenges with paid family medical leave, and it doesn't, and nobody in the room is saying, oh, we don't need paid family medical leave. It's just saying we need to tweak some things that are in there because they're not reasonable. The feeling is that they're not reasonable, and there's a lot of, in particular, there's a lot of language in the law about retaliation, about how employers can't retaliate. Well, some of those retaliation laws make it almost impossible for companies to actually manage situations, negative situations. So, but fortunately, there was a lot of good listening at both with Lauren Jones. There was great listening, and there was great listening from the state representatives that were there at our meeting in our offices in New Bedford. So there's a lot of really good stuff that's happening there. And of course, housing is the biggest issue around the country, really. And we were part of, through the Regeneration Project in New Bedford, we were part of the housing symposium that brought Secretary Ed Augustus down. He's the Secretary of Housing, and he came down and did a great job speaking about what's happening at the state level. But then there was a wonderful panel of folks, talking about all the different challenges. And there was, I'm not going to remember everybody's name, but there was a representative from the city of New Bedford. There was a representative from the town of Dartmouth. There was a representative from Bristol County Savings Bank representing the businesses and the loan industry. And then there was a small developer was there as well. So we had a very good variation of folks. And it turned out to be a great discussion, great conversation. A lot of people really understanding that there are great housing needs at all levels. It starts at the real true affordable housing, and it works its way up to the luxurious homes that you do see in some of our communities. Mm-hmm. So communities like Dartmouth and Mattapoisett and Freetown and some of the others, you see some really nice, beautiful homes. And and people will say, well, how does that help affordable housing? Well, what's happening in the market now is people aren't moving because the rates are high, and there's a whole trickle down effect with that. So larger homes aren't being built at the pace that they have been in the past, and you need to keep moving. You need people to keep stepping up. You want young couples to buy larger homes, young families to buy larger homes, and then the market's very stagnant right now. Mm-hmm. So that's not helping anybody at any point. So, but we're actually going to work with the Realtors Association of Southeastern Mass to create a workforce housing coalition, so we can really jump in and address the housing issues and work with all the cities and towns in our region, and work with major employers and work with anybody really who has an interest to try to see what can the South Coast do to help alleviate this problem or reduce the impact of the problem. And it's important to do it on a regional level because Fall River's and New Bedford are very similar in the sense of how the numbers of houses that they're short and they need to build. But they're also in the same situation that they can't solve all the problems because housing is not for one community. Housing is for regions. And, what Somerset does reflects on Fall River. Well, Fall River does reflect on Somerset, just like Swansea and Seekonk and Rehoboth and Westport. They all matter.
Right.
So it's an important thing. I feel like I'm haven't stopped, but we
have a lot to say.
Yeah, there is, and then of course there's unemployment, which unemployment is a very difficult situation because there's what was a $2.5 billion accounting error or mistake, I guess you can call it, dating back to the Baker administration, and it's a federal mistake. It's a state mistake, but the money is federal money, and the federal government hasn't decided yet what needs to happen with that money if it's paid back. And of course, businesses are sitting on pins and needles because if the state has to pay it back, that means that it's going to be an additional $2.5 million bill somehow split amongst all the businesses in the state that currently pay into the unemployment insurance fund, which is already a very, very expensive part of anybody's business.
Right.
So, it's not simple in that respect.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, I think that does it for our government affairs update,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Well, it will, because I have more in my notes, but it will.
All right. So last time we were here, we were gearing up to host former Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito at our annual Women's Forum. So we had that event. It was a huge success.
Oh.
A huge success. She's incredible.
Yeah.
She was just so charming, and I think everybody in that audience was hanging on her every word and left there feeling inspired.
I don't know anybody that was there that walked away saying that was, anything but that was just a fantastic luncheon, and she was a fantastic speaker. She really, my God, the stories that she could tell, just first herself getting started in politics was very interesting, and then how she became, very close with Charlie Baker before they were elected, and how they actually came to decide to run together. And she could tell it in such kind of a whimsical form,
Right.
that you had to laugh.
Yeah.
You had to laugh. And of course she did a great job as a lieutenant governor. She's moved to the South Coast, which
Right.
is exciting. And she just jumped in once we asked. She jumped in and said, absolutely. She came, and she really was she was really entertaining, but she was very pointed. You can tell still, she didn't say she's ever going to go back, but I would never be surprised if she
Right.
ever went back
Yeah.
to politics. But she did say she's having a lot of fun, working in the family business, which is real estate and housing development, and that, and which is, as we just talked about, is a very challenging situation. So she's really enjoying that. So, and she's enjoying, spending time with family.
And she was
But-
great. I mean, she took questions from the audience, and you could tell she really cared about what the people were saying. She stayed afterwards to talk to some of them more in depth about things and help get them the information they needed to resolve their problems. And she was wonderful.
She was very sincere, and trying to, and there was one woman that was asking questions for a friend who was getting into politics. I think it was the school committee level.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
so her feedback, Karen's feedback was terrific, because she'd been through it all. She really had been through it all. She'd been through it at, losing at the school committee level, then ultimately winning, becoming a state rep, losing, I think she ran for state auditor, she said. I think, don't hold me to that, but she ran for a statewide position. She did not win, but that's where she met Charlie Baker. And then the next time she ran with him as lieutenant governor, and she won. And of course, she was very, very. It was a great line, but she said, of course, the last district in was the Worcester district where she was living at the time. So she would, over time, she would remind the governor that, it was my district that won for him. So
She was a hot ticket for sure, and we enjoyed her very much. So
yeah.
And that was hosted at Rachel's Lakeside, which is actually where our next event is coming up as well. Our next political event, I guess you could call it, our
Yeah.
legislative luncheon, which we do annually as well. That's going to be on Friday, January 7th. It's a luncheon, as I just said. And right now we have 7 legislators signed up. We have Senator Michael Rodrigues, and then Representatives Tony Cabral, Carol Fiola, Alan Sylvia, Pat Haddad, Paul Schmidt, and Chris Hendricks signed up so far. So we may be adding a few more depending on what their schedules look like.
Did you say Steve Howard?
I did not.
We need to check on that. 'Cause
Oh.
he always likes to show up.
Oh, I heard he wasn't coming, but we'll have to.
Maybe he
we'll have
can't.
to
I mean, it's
confirm.
possible
Yeah,
he can't make
yeah.
it. I don't
They're
want
all
to throw
very
any
busy.
one person under the bus, but it really it's hard. It's hard enough to get 1 or 2 of them.
Right.
But to get 7 of them at an event is really terrific. we're looking forward to that. That's always a great event. I'm thinking that housing is going to probably be an important topic. I think many of the topics we just ran through on that our government affairs is working on are probably going to be some of the bigger topics, but I really suspect that at this point the biggest topic will probably be housing. If I remember correctly, it was pretty big last year.
I think so, yeah. That took up a big chunk of the time.
Yeah, but that's always a really good event, and all of the legislators, they stick around, so people can talk to them individually, and they jump in. Occasionally they take a jab here or two at each other, which is, it's interesting. But we're very fortunate that, on the South Coast, that we've got folks in really key positions at the state level that really matter,
right,
and help us a lot. So we're very fortunate, and our relationship with them, I think, is just a great indication of why they're showing up.
Right. They do a fantastic job.
And Ian is working hard to strengthen that even more.
And so if anybody is interested in joining us at our legislative luncheon, you can purchase tickets on our website at onesouthcoast.com. We have our annual, it seems far away, but we're going to blink and December will be here. At our annual meeting is where we honor some great people and businesses in our community with our Brayton and Apex Award nominations. So the deadline is coming up faster than we know it. We know we'll blink in summer will unfortunately be coming to a close. So Mike, if you want to talk a little bit about what these awards are.
Yeah, I'd love to. It does seem like it's far away, but one of the reasons why it's a lot closer than it seems is because the deadline for both the Brayton and Apex Awards, August 1st?
August 1st,
I got that right.
You
okay.
got it. You got
is August 1st. And August 1st is going to be here before we know it. I mean, by the time the kids are out of school, the 4th of July hits, folks take vacation, all of a sudden August 1st is here in the blink of an eye. And it does take a little bit of time to fill out the applications for these awards. The Brayton Awards are the John Brayton Community Awards. They're originally from what was the Fall River Area Chamber long before we merged. And they're community-based awards. We look for individuals, we look for companies, we look for people to nominate folks that are doing great work in the community. And how exactly how that's defined is it's not really defined, meticulously.
Right.
It's the opportunities there, for people to say, I think this person's a great person, and then they can tell the story. Right. So sometimes it takes a little bit longer. So if you have somebody in mind, let's get the paperwork rolling. You can do it all online.
Yeah, it's all on our website.
It's all at onesouthcoast.com. They're fillable PDFs. You can do it that way. So the Brayton Awards are the community-based awards, and then the Apex Awards are business-based awards. And in more cases than not, the business will nominate themselves. But we look at it, and we have we've got different size businesses. We've got a large not-for-profit. We've got a large.
We have a large business, small business, non-for-profit, and education.
That's it. Thank you for saving me there. But you could be a not-for-profit and win a large business, as an example.
Correct.
Last year, Bristol Community College, with the great work that they did with the National Offshore Wind Institute, more readily known as NOWI, with the great work that they did there, they won the Large Business Award. So even though it's a not-for-profit organization, and that, so you can move things around a little bit, to try to make it work. And but those, so the Apex Awards are based. Like I said, they're more self-nominating.
Right.
But if you know somebody, or you have a vendor, or you have some business that's really is doing great work and should receive the accolades, you can nominate them.
Yeah, we want to hear about it. So you can visit our website, like Mike said, at onesouthcoast.com to get more information on those awards or to download the fillable PDFs. And as a reminder, once again, that deadline is August 1st. Upcoming events. This is the fun part. This is where we get into the fun stuff, the things that keep me busy most of the time. We're working on our bi-monthly Women's Power Lunch for June. This is hot off the press. You're the first. Heard it here first. We're just announcing June's Women's Power Lunch is actually going to be held at the Roach Jones Duff House in New Bedford, and we're going to do a garden-style power lunch with the ladies. So look for more information on our website about that coming soon. And then on Thursday, June 27th, is our monthly Business After Hours, and that's going to be hosted by St. Anne's Credit Union. And they usually do it at the Cove, right down on Duval Street. So I'm waiting to confirm that, but I'm 99% sure that'll be at the Cove, and that's always a really great event on the water with the summer breeze blowing.
That's always a great one to have at the Cove, and you're right there on the water. It's a great event. And of course, our friends at St. Anne's Credit Union, they're always great.
They are. They're great supporters. They're great supporters of us, so we appreciate them for that. And then our friend Ashley Okino, the executive director of FRAC, she has something fun going on for creative small businesses. She's partnered with Bristol County Savings Bank. FRAC has partnered with them to present banking services available for creative small businesses, and that's going to be held on June 11th. From 4:30 to 5 p.m. at the Ignition Space, which is FRAC's new building over on Troy Street.
44 Troy Street.
44 Troy, the old American wallpaper for all of you old school Fall River people who remember that. And Ashley wants to convey that this training is an important step toward creative businesses building a better business. There's 3 sections of it. The first addresses banking services, not including loans. The second covers financing options and sources available for small creative small businesses. And then the third discusses how to avoid fraud and scams. This training session, as I mentioned, is presented in partnership with Bristol County Savings Bank, and you can register for this at thefrac, fracc.org, thefrac.org. And then also one more thing that FRAC has going on in partnership with the Fall River YMCA and Bristol Black Collective, they're doing an in-person DEI workshop titled A Seat at the Table. And that actually, the date changed. So if you had heard about it before, there is a new date, which is going to be July 24th at 6 p.m. That's going to be held at the Y right downtown on North Main Street. And they'll have food and childcare provided. So if you want to come and you don't have a babysitter, please feel free to bring your children, and you can register for that as well at thefrac.org.
Yeah, those are both going to be wonderful events, really important events,
right?
For everything that's happening in the community. So we're very excited for Ashley to be able to be doing those.
And that's it.
Yeah, and that's it. And thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Katie, it's been a pleasure.
Likewise, always. Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Yes.